Good morning. Hi, guys. Everybody's hopping on. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. And today's power hour is going to be a little different, but hopefully it will be good. It'll be good. I feel like September is a weird transitional month, and it kind of makes people feel a little chaotic and transitional because it doesn't really know if it's summer or if it's fall. It's just sort of stuck in between. And I find myself looking forward to October because it's stable, it knows it's fall, it has a purpose, and it brings me purpose. So what we're going to do tonight is, or today, I guess it's the morning, it's super early in the morning, we're going to do a connection power hour. So I'm just going to start off a little different. Like I said, good morning from Seattle. What is the one thing that you guys hear over and over and over is the key to success? Who knows? Type it in the chat. It's one word that gets used. Oh yeah, consistency. Everybody knows it, right? You just have to be more consistent. Well, I actually believe that it's another C word, not that word, another C word, and that is connection, right? Because what creates that consistency? What gives you the ability to be consistent? Connection. If you're not connected to what you're doing, you're not going to be consistent with it. Can I get an amen? Yes. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about. Connection really breeds that consistency, and I think it's also what creates it. So if you wake up every single day and somehow you can connect to your journey, you have a different day than if you didn't. And that's the truth. So we're going to dive a little deeper into that. And I wanted to just go through a couple different thoughts. And then our power hour today is really going to be focused on reflect, connect, and take notes. We do have a tracker still. We are still going to go through it that style. But I wanted to kind of, I just wanted to start off a little differently because I think it's important to kind of get into that mode where you feel calm, where you feel like, okay, we're not going to sit and just like do busy work today. We're going to actually try and connect. So let's see, where do I want to start? Let's see. I think the main thing here, and one point I really wanted to get across, is consistency can create tremendous result, right? But connection can really produce that dream level, next level, legacy leaving, massive impact building result. And at the end of the day, like that's what I want, right? I want to hit my goals. I want to achieve my dreams. I want to help a shit ton of people, if I don't mind my swears. And I want to like really love what I do. So one thing I've been thinking a lot about lately is can we be plugged in and completely disconnected? Yes. We can be 100% plugged in, doing the power hours, going through the motions, doing our workouts, eating our food. We can do all the things, you guys, and be completely disconnected from what we're doing. And when you start doing power hours, when you're following up with people, when you're doing all the things and it's not working, it's a connection issue. There's dead spots. You're spotty, right? So just like our TVs, when we plug them in, they turn on and they work, right? But they can't give us the content that we need until they are connected to a higher source of power, right? The internet, satellites, Wi-Fi, they're connected to something so much bigger than itself, and that's how it creates the magic, right? So that's what I want you to think about, that visual. When you sit down and you plug in, I want you to get connected first, because everything you do from that point on will just land so much better. So today, the goal is to really, again, connect with each other, connect with yourself, and connect with your person. That person that is watching you, that person that is hanging on to your every single move, right? That's listening to every single thing you say. They're just too afraid to say something. They're too afraid to admit right now what they've done to themselves. How many of you have been there? Yeah, it's tough stuff. And when you finally get to the point where you say it out loud to someone like, oh my gosh, I need help, or I need this, or I want to do this, or it's time to change, right? Like, you know, they're at a point where they're so fed up that they don't care about the judgment anymore. And that's a really important thing, because that is also something that we need to go through as coaches, right? Where you get so fed up that you're not hitting your goals, that you're not reaching your dreams, that you're not getting where you want, that you don't care anymore what other people think. You just do what you have to do, and you get to work and you go. It's the same thing. It's just applied in a different way. Does that make sense? So, I just wanted to note that when you are consistent with connection, and you're consistent with our process, and you're consistent with saying, and you're connected to speaking about the emotions that go into our journeys and what we do, and you're not afraid to say those things out loud anymore, right? Because you're not that person anymore that can't admit it. You've already been through that. So if you can be the person that can admit it, that can be admitting it every day, right? Like, I'm here, I'm changing, I'm ready to go. Guys, that is so powerful. When our ability to connect our ability to connect with people heavily relies on our ability to connect with ourselves. Our ability to connect with other people relies heavily on our own personal connection, right? I truly believe the most successful coaches in this business don't have anything that we don't. They're just completely connected, or they're connected more than we are, right? So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go through our little power hour. I'm gonna post the tracker one more time so I don't have to do it while we're actually talking, in case you didn't get it. And I'm gonna share my screen so that everybody can see it no matter what. And we're going to go through this little sheet. So let me just pull up the chat. Okay. The very first thing I want you guys to do today is I want you to identify how strong your signal is. How connected do you feel at the moment to your business, to your goals, to your team, to your own personal journey? 10 being you're on point, 1 being completely disconnected to the point where you're almost unplugged. I just want you to answer that really fast. Okay, second thing, my ultimate goal. I want you to write down your end point. What's your end point with coaching? And it's an actual goal that's trackable, that's tangible, right? It's not, I want to make people feel good. It's an actual goal. What do you want to accomplish with your coaching business? Who do you ultimately want to become as a person? You can answer it that way as well if you want. And as you're kind of writing that down, I just wanted to say that connection requires presence. It's difficult to be present without slowing down. So these connection power hours always feel a little different than all of the other ones. They always feel a little slower. But when you slow down and you connect with those around you, with yourself, and to that person that you became a coach to help, right? And that's another really important thing that we're going to go over later, is you all became coaches for that person. So whenever you're like, I don't know what my niche is, or I don't know who it is, you don't have to sit there and write out their work schedule and the strengths and weaknesses in their life or any of that stuff. You think about who was in your mind when you became a coach, that needed you, and that's why you did it. Right? Easy, simple. The more simple you can keep it, the longer you can hold that focus. So the very first section we're going to do is we're going to try and connect with each other a little bit. So I'm just going to expand this for a second because I know we're on the screen. And I want you to just look around. Like, don't look down. Don't look to the side. Just look around. Like, look at each other. We get so caught up in putting our head down and getting to work that we miss exactly what we need all the time, which is just right in front of our faces, right? We just need each other a lot of the time. So what I want you guys to do is I want you to write down 3 things. This is hard for me, but I want you guys to write down 3 things that you need from other people right now. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. You can put your heads down now if you want. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Okay, as you guys are finishing that up, I'm gonna go to the next one. So the next thing I want to really reflect on, again, when you look around, is commonality. A lot of the times when we're looking around us, what are we doing? Comparing. But with this exercise, I want you guys to find a commonality because we are all on the exact same plan, right? Does anyone here have a different compensation plan than I do? That's like specifically catered to you and your abilities and what you're good at and what you're not good at, and can you work at a faster pace than me, or work at a slower pace and get further along in some plan that I don't know? No, we all have the exact same plan. That's so important. It has to be okay that we're all on a different path with it, right? It has to be okay. So instead of finding those comparisons, what I want you guys to do right now is I want you to find that commonality, which is our compensation plan. We're all here for the same purpose. We all want to continue improving our lives and we want to help other people, right? At the very basis of things. All of the other stuff that's involved in your why and how you're doing this is 100% your approach. Does that make sense? So what I want you to do is just identify 3 things in your approach. And this is all going to tie into something later. So I want you guys to really, really take note of it. I'm going to give you 3 minutes and I want you to think, what's my personal approach to this business? Because I think we get asked a lot, what's your vision? What's your goal? What do you want to do? What's your end game, right? I even asked you that at the beginning of this call. But what's your approach? What's your approach? If somebody said, oh, you're a Beachbody coach, how are you working your business? What would you say? I'm going to give you a couple minutes to do that. I'm just going to give you guys some examples because that's kind of a confusing question. But When I think about that, when I think about my own approach, I'm very mindset based. I'm very, let's work from the inside out based. And I am very quality over quantity oriented. I like more intimate, not huge, giant amounts of people. I get overwhelmed by that stuff. So when you just think about like the very basic things, like what are the things that really have depth for you in our business? That's kind of where I want you to start with that. I'll give you one more minute. Okay, we're gonna go to the next one. Do you guys remember last week when I choked and almost died on our call? Just reminded me of that because my water's right here, and I was like, oh yeah, I better keep that really close to me. Anyway, okay, so the next one, and this is another really, really important one because this is something, again, that we all go through and every single one of us deals with, every single person, right? And it is our inner toxicity. What is that inner narrative right now? So I want you to just listen for a second. And I want you to think about your most limiting beliefs. And they are the things that you would never say out loud to anyone else, right? I'm just going to give you a little example. You can start writing it down right now if you want. But I had this girl who messaged me on Instagram and she was totally body shaming herself because she had just had a baby, which is normal. So many women do it, especially when they get into a safe place with someone and they can talk about how they really feel about themselves. And it's just fascinating. It's fascinating to hear what people will say out loud. And if they're saying it out loud, imagine what's going on internally, right? But I just remember thinking, like, this is crazy. This girl looks amazing, first of all. And second, she just had a baby, right? Like, all the things we think about women, especially if you've had a baby of your own, like, it's just, that's not the right approach, right? So, what I said to her was, if you had a friend, if your friend or your sister or some neighbor that you didn't even know, let's just say a stranger had just had a baby, and they were saying, they came up to you and they were so happy and excited to show you their baby, and you said all of those things out loud to her about her body, how do you think she would feel? And she was like, oh my gosh. And I just think about that every time I have those limiting beliefs, or every time you start hearing that inner narrative come out that's negative, you guys, even if you're not saying it out loud, those insecurities show. They come out. They come out in your approach. You're less confident, you say less things, you hold back, you put up walls, right? Because you don't want anyone to hear or feel or see that inner narrative. And until you change that, and until you transform your inner narrative into something more positive, you're not going to break down those walls. You're not going to get more confident, and you're not going to be able to project and work this business the way that you want to, with the power that you want to, until those things are taken care of. So today, one of the most important things that you can do with connecting to your journey, to connecting with other people, is by starting inside. And if there's ever something that you're saying over and over and over to yourself, I want you to think about someone coming to you and you saying that to them as if it was about them. You're not enough, right? I don't know if I could work this business. You're right. You're not enough. I don't know if I can help other people. You're right. You're not really good at this. Right? I don't know if I could, I don't know if I'm in the right shape for this. Yeah, you're not doing this right. Those are the three things that I tell myself all the time. Those are my top three limiting beliefs, right? You're not enough. You're not doing this right. And you aren't good at this. Like, imagine if you said those things to someone else who was looking to you for hope, right? So I want you to write down your top limiting beliefs. I'm going to give you a couple. Okay. I'm sure you guys all got that done really fast because we all know what they are. Okay, so we're going to shift gears just a little bit. And now I really want to help you connect a little bit deeper and more with yourself so that you can do a better job. Okay. So the very first thing that we're going to do is identify some of the things that keep us disconnected. This is really important. Okay, I gave us some ideas, some of those things that I see consistently over and over and over again that disconnect my coaches from their businesses or from their own personal journeys are lack of progress and results. Number one, right? Number two, varied schedules. That's hard, right? Our work schedule, that's hard. Everybody's got different things going on in life. It's hard to, that's hard. Um, The third thing is fake or empty goals. I can tell when every single coach of mine or in my organization tells me a goal that they don't feel. Has that ever happened to you? I can tell when they're robotically going through that process. They're saying what they think I want to hear. And it's the most frustrating thing of my life. It's something we correct as quickly as possible. Okay. But that's important. So if you've done that or you feel like you should have a goal for something that's just not feeling right, that's not your goal. It's not your goal. It may not be your goal to be a diamond coach. You either have to reframe it some other way that makes sense to you. You may have to push it to something bigger. You may have to make it a little bit more approachable. There's a lot of different reasons, but that's a really big one. Poor self-esteem and self-worth. That's a really big one. That really disconnects us. Poor choices, right? And inauthentic narratives or persona when we're trying to be something we're not, or we're showing up for people in ways that's not authentic to ourselves. And some of us do that without even knowing that. And that's really the harder, the harder personal development. But I want you to just write down your top three things that you feel disconnect you. What are the top three that you can identify? Not in that list, but they can be off the list, but just top three things that make you feel disconnected the most. I'm going to give you 1 minute. Okay, and then we're going to go to the next one, which is things that create connection. Okay, so the things that disconnect me, I wrote one, my limiting belief disconnects every time, right? My second one is personal development. If I'm not doing it right, if I'm not doing it in the right areas, super important. My self-care routine and lack of sleep, those are huge. Those things will disconnect me quicker than anything else. Okay, so when we're looking for connection, it's important to understand what we're not doing, but it's more important to understand what we can do about it. So when we focus on creating more connection, right, again, it comes down to progress and results. That's like number one. The choices that we're making are going to be what gets us reconnected the fastest. Yeah, I don't feel like I'm part of a team. That is a huge one. That's humongous. I'm so glad that you wrote that, because that's something that I think every single coach feels, no matter what, even if they have a big team. So you're definitely not alone with that. And I would recommend creating your own. Make your own team, right? Okay. So getting connected, confident choices, getting progress and results. That's where I start always. That's the first step, always. If you're super disconnected, if you're like a 1 on your signal scale and you're like about to quit coaching, or you're like teetering, or you're like, I don't know if this is for me, focus on your results, on your own personal journey, 100%, and everything else will fall into place. Structure, even amid the chaos. If you have a super chaotic schedule, this is going to require you to sit down week to week, sometimes day to day, and structure your day. Sometimes that's hour by hour, but you have to discipline yourself that way so that you know what's ahead of you, right? If you don't know what's ahead of you, how can you prepare for it? If you're running down a path and you don't know there's a cliff at the end, but for some reason you have a blindfold on, you're going to fall right off the cliff, right? But if you have a blindfold on and you know there's a cliff at the end, how slow are you going to run? So slow, so you don't fall off the cliff, right? It's important to understand what's in front of you. So that's a really big one. Meaningful goals that actually speak to you. And remember, you guys, goals are trackable and they're tangible. They're not something that, they are something you can feel and see. You can feel your goals, right? But they have to be trackable. It has to have some kind of tangible result to be a goal. So that's why I say, like, I want to help a lot of people. That's not a goal. I want to help 30 people. That's a goal. Does that make sense? So having meaningful goals and then being authentic. So I want you to just write down 3 things that can reconnect you. So think about that. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Okay, we're going to go to the next thing. So this is one of my more fun activities for connection. So when you're trying to, again, just connect with yourself, connect with your journey, it's fun to think about your important stories. What are some of your most important life stories? things you reflect on often, things you think about all the time, things that pop up for you just randomly. I think, it's so crazy that when we think about telling stories, it's like, okay, how can I relate this to fitness? How can I relate this to coaching? Like, how can I bring my life now into this story? And I think some of the most powerful stories, you guys, are the ones that don't have anything to do with any of that. They're just part of your life. They're part of your story. That's how people feel connected to you. When you share something with them that feels private, right? That's unrelated. It's like, oh, like they're getting a glimpse and like a detail into my life, right? That I never knew about. It's exciting when you're following somebody for a long time that's had a tremendous influence on you to get new information, right? It's cool to see some of those other sides of people. So what I want you to do is just identify some of your most important stories. I just want you to write like a little tagline or something that will remind you of that story. And I want you to take a couple minutes to do this and think of a few. So I'm going to give you 4 minutes. Okay, so while you guys are writing, I just wanted to say a couple other things about this because it really is so important that the story just has significance to you. It doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks, right? Like that's not what this is about. So I want you to identify like pivotal turning points in your life. Those are all stories. Things that changed you as a person, changed your direction, things like that. Those are the more like the bigger ones. But there's like tiny stories in everything. The way that you approach certain things, the way that you react to certain things, they're all stemming from something, right? Like, for example, I grew up in a very, very conservative religion that created a tremendous amount of shame for me. So most people, when they have organized religion, they're like, they love it, right? And They love the structure, they love the practice, they love all of those things. For me, I was a much more free-spirited, spiritual, very connected to God, if you will say, like already, like I didn't really need that structure. And so a lot of the structure just felt very restrictive and it felt very shaming for me. So a lot of growing up, who I was felt wrong, right? The way that I thought, the way that I did things, the way that I dressed, the way that I spoke, all of these things, they weren't acceptable in the walls and the box of this religion. And so and it wasn't something that I was conscious of because it's what I grew up with. So I was just like, oh, okay, la, 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 la. It wasn't until my adult life that I realized how much that was affecting me in my adult life, right? And how much I was holding back because I was taught to do that. Does that make sense? Story has nothing to do with fitness, has everything to do with who I am and how I operate and what I'm doing, right? Like leaving that religion was one of the best things I've ever done for myself. But for everyone around me, the first thing they think is, well, you're not going to go to heaven then, right? Like that's a big thing. But if I got caught up in what other people thought about it, I would just continue living the same way I had always lived for other people and other things and things that don't really fit me. Does that make sense? So your stories matter. Like your stories aren't just these big, significant, huge things. And they're all evolving all the time. So if you just start paying attention and you start to say like, why am I doing that? And you start asking yourself that question, like, why am I doing this just because it's what I've always done? Like that's the worst motto you can live by. I'm doing this just because it's what I've always done, right? Like it's just like that is a story. It's just those little things. So I just want you to start to kind of pay attention and identify some of those things because it'll be really, really helpful and impactful for you. So we're going to shift again into connecting to our person. And again, this is the person that you signed up as a coach to help, right? When I started coaching, I became a coach because exercise and nutrition and this community basically became a cure for depression for me. It was really I found how to manage and cope and deal with my depression in a natural way. And that was a life-changing experience for me. And I thought, if I could change this quickly and have this fast of results, then I have to give that hope to someone else who's been suffering like me, right? Like that's why I became a coach. So when you think about little things like that, that's when you really start to find your person. And then once you really can think, okay, that's the person that I was born to help, right? You can start to identify where they live. And by that I mean like, what are their activities? Like what are they searching for right now? And you can start to find those hashtags and those little corners in your social media that those people hang out. You can start to pay attention to what people are saying. And you can identify things in their conversation and the way they speak and how they comment on other people's social media. And you can start to open opportunity for conversation. One thing that I taught my team this week, and I've asked them to start paying attention to more, is what people are actually saying. So when you go on your mentors pages, when you go into, your favorite products and your favorite brands or your favorite people that you follow, when you go into the comments section, start reading what people are saying sometimes. Do you know how much opportunity there is to help people in those comment sections? I cannot tell you how many customers I've got from that specific activity. People who are commenting and bidding for connection. That's a really good word. I love that word. People bid for our connection all the time. Are we taking it or are we rejecting it? And I think when you look for those bids of connection, right? You look for people who are like in the comment section of somebody big and they just say something like, oh my gosh, I love this. I wish I could be that way. Right? or I wish I looked like you, or I can't get my stuff to, like, it's everywhere. And if you just work a little smarter and you look for those bids of connection, it's going to open so much opportunity for you guys to step in and be like, oh my gosh, why don't you think, like, why do you think you need to look like her? You're beautiful. Do you know how far that one message goes of someone just noticing what they said, first of all? And then second, going a step further and saying, no, you don't think like that. Like, this is reality. That's just a limiting belief that you have. Like, no, this is right. And that connection they get from that immediately, they want to be around you. They want to be by somebody who makes them feel better, who makes them feel good about themselves, right? There's an incredible amount of opportunity that is wasted in those comment sections. I tell you, if you did a networking power hour or an inviting power hour and you just spent an hour going through some of these influencers' comments, you would find so many people to help immediately. It's awesome. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're going to now execute a post. And I'm gonna give you guys 7 minutes to do this. And what I want you to do is I want you to try and share a story. I want you to do it with your own approach. I want you to identify a limiting belief that you had within that story and how you overcame it or how you're overcoming it, right? And I want you to keep the common plan in mind. And when you think about a common plan for everyone, right? Like not just Beachbody, what is that? We're all here trying to live our best life, be good people, and then eventually we're all gonna die. Our plan is the same. What we do with that is different. It has to be, right? So I just want you guys to go in and I want you to try and create a post right now with all these things that you just went through. You can either post it or you can save it as a draft, but I want you to create it and I want you to start it. So I'm gonna give you the next 6 minutes to start that. Okay, we're gonna go to the next one. So we're gonna just share a little gratitude. This is one of my favorite things to do with connection. And it's something that always helps me feel a little more connected because I am not super great at gratitude. I always feel it, but I'm not great at expressing it out loud. So what I want you guys to do is I want you to go into your Instagram or into your Facebook, and I want you to focus on your current followers and your current audience, the people that are already giving to you right now. And I want you to give 3 compliments or 3 things of gratitude. Thank you so much for following me. You guys, especially when you do this out of the blue, like out of nowhere, when they haven't commented or liked something, and you just give that gratitude for free, it's so impactful for you and for them. You start to notice people that you didn't notice before, and you start to build connections with people that you didn't have before, and it's awesome. So I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to go in and do that. I just wanted to share something that Gary Vee said the other day. I follow him religiously on Instagram, but he said one of the greatest ways to build your audience and build your following is to love your community more than they love you. Spend the time. Spend the time. And I loved that so much. So I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to go in and do that one. Okay, while you guys are finishing that part up, I'm just going to go to the next one because I want to get through the next 3 things real quick before we end. So, um, the next thing that I want to do, so we executed our post, we showed gratitude, right? Is to recognize the abundance around you. A lot of us work in a scarcity mindset, and that is tragic with coaching because our business requires abundance, right? So if you're constantly feeling like there's no abundance, it's going to feel sucky building this business. And you want to feel good building this business, right? So you can stay connected, so you can do better work. So recognizing the abundance is important. I think learning how to create lists of people to talk to for yourself is really key. I do that with polls. I ask questions every single day on my Instagram stories. And I ask questions that are relative to answers that I can lead into a fitness conversation of some kind or build a connection. So I am constantly creating polls. So what I want you guys to do this morning, because 30-day breakaway is right around the corner, we're going to create a really simple poll. And I just want you to go into your Instagram story and I want you to ask people, are you good at running? Are you a strong runner? You don't even have to say anything else. It's almost like a teaser. You're just asking a question. Are you a really strong runner or are you really bad at it? Okay, and then when we get off this call, you guys can follow that up with, there's a new program coming out. I want to do it. I'm horrible at this, or I'm a really strong runner and I want to help people get better at this too. Wherever you're coming from it, I'm horrible at running. I run like Phoebe on Friends. I don't know if any of you guys have seen that, but that's what I look like. Look up the meme. It's hilarious. But I want you to just create a list for yourself. Have people answer your polls. And when you scroll up, all of their names come up that took your poll. And you can literally work from your own lists every single day to connect with people and start conversations. And when you ask those simple questions, like, are you a strong runner or are you not a runner at all? You can go through either of those answers and start a conversation and say, we have this new running program coming out. And based on what they said, if they're a strong runner, you can be like, I'm looking for people who are really good at this because I'm really bad at this. And I need some people's opinions that are good. Like I need a strong community of support around me. If you're a really strong runner, then you can say, we have this new program coming out and I'm really passionate about teaching people this practice because it's so impactful in my life. And we have a new program for it now for people who don't know how to do it at all. And I'm looking for people who want to do it. Right. And then you've got like two really strong, easy ways to start connecting and inviting with people right away. So one, you can do that poll. Two, I want you guys to search for a new hashtag and follow it. A new hashtag that's relevant to anything that we just talked about in this call. And then the third thing, again, is just to pay attention to the commentary, which we talked about already. Pay attention to people's comments. That's something we can do as homework. So I'm going to give you 1 minute to do those two things. Create a poll and follow a new hashtag. Okay, our next little thing is really quick, but I've also been talking to my team a lot about this, about giving more freely. So we give a lot of things for free, right? Our time, our energy, all of these things I noted in the take note section: motivation, support, tools, structure, perspective, samples, experience, right? Advice, content, workout ideas, recipes, PD recommends, helpful resources. We give this stuff for free all the time. The more you give, the more you're going to have. And I say that all the time. The more you have, the more you can give, right? It works both ways. So what's cool about that, and what I want you guys to do, is just circle a couple of those things that you're not giving freely enough. And I want you to start infusing that into your business. Because when you constantly give for free, what you're doing is giving your intention. I'm here to help people. I'm not here to collect a paycheck, right? And when people see you giving and giving and giving and giving and giving all the time, when you give them the opportunity to join your challenge, when you give them the options to buy a challenge pack, when you give them the information about all of this stuff, it doesn't feel like you're in it for yourself. Does that make sense? It doesn't feel like you're in it for yourself to them. It feels like you're just doing more of what you do, which is give freely, right? It's important. So I want you to just identify a few of those things. And then we're going to do our follow unfollow exercise. So I'm going to give you guys 1 minute to go through, and I want you to just circle a couple of those things. And then I want you to find, follow, and friend 20, let's say 20 people. Okay. If you've never done that exercise before, it's literally just networking. But now with this feeling behind it, I hope that it feels a little bit different and that you're actually doing it with some intention and some purpose. And it's not just this absent, empty activity. Okay, so I'm going to give you 1 minute to do that and then we'll close out. Okay, so we're going to wrap up. Your guys' homework is, and this is really, really a simple thing. Have any of you guys ever asked yourselves, what should I be doing? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like when you sit down, you're like, what should I be doing right now? Really simple answer. Start someone new, support someone through. Every day, start someone new, support someone through. If you just keep it that simple and your effort every day is to accomplish those two things, you did your job and you did it well, right? I tell my coaches this all the time. If you started a conversation with someone in the morning, you only talk to them all day about their journey, their past, where they are, where they're going. You gave them the information, they bought a challenge pack, and you got them started in your challenge group. Do you feel bad about everything you didn't do? No, because that's the only thing we're here to do. Does that make sense? We're here to get people started and to support them through their journey. So don't get caught up in all the other hoopla. Like that's the most important thing. So one thing that's interesting when you go through some of these activities, after you do a connection exercise, it might feel harder than it did when you were just absently doing them, when you were just mindlessly going through the exercises. But that's because it's real, right? Like it might feel harder when you're connected, but at least it's real. The pace doesn't matter. You guys really need to just keep that in mind. The pace doesn't matter. You're going to get there, right? You're going to reach your destination if you don't give up. If you don't give up, you will get there. So let go of this idea that it has to be done in your time, because it doesn't, and it won't. I'm telling you that right now, it will not happen in your time. You can do everything right and still miss the mark. Can I get an amen? Yes. Okay. So the very last thought before I let you guys go, if you went through this exercise and you felt like, I don't need this, like I'm unfocused, I'm not connecting with this, I'm not doing this, you're missing the whole freaking point. You're missing the point, and you're going to keep missing the point until you slow down long enough to do this the right way. Right? I just want you guys to take note that as slow as this felt, or as quick as this felt, or whatever the pace was, again, it doesn't matter. How you work moving forward matters. And if you're not connected to what you're doing, nothing is going to land anyway, and you really are just wasting your time. So the most important thing you guys can do is be connected. So this connection power hour is amazing when you really are on that 5 or below signal. Like if you're at a 5 or below, like you need this, and you need this for as long as it takes to be a 10. Because if you want to hit your goals, your connection has to be the strongest. My goal every day right now, being 10 years into this business almost, is to make sure there are no dead spots in my day. To make sure that I don't have a spotty connection. Because that kills businesses day after day after day. That kills dreams day after day after day. That will make you miss that goal again and again and again. So if you are sitting there thinking to yourself, I want to be a superstar diamond 7-figure earner, right? What matters the most is that every day you are connected to what you're doing here. You're starting someone new and you're supporting someone through. That is the only way any of us make progress in our collective plan. Do you guys understand that? There's no other way. Every single coach is starting people and supporting people. That's it. How they do it, again, is really on them. And that's when you get to reflect into your own journey and reflect through all those things. Notice, find, listen, right? Get connected. Understand why you're disconnected. It's important to look around you, to execute, to be grateful, to recognize your abundance, to give freely, to build community, and to start someone new and support someone through. When you need a really quick connection, go down that first section of the list and read all of those words. And it will change everything, okay? It can be a 2-minute exercise. It can be a 2-day exercise. It can be a 2-month exercise. Whatever you have to do to get yourself to that point of connection every day so that you can work better in your own life, in your own mind, in your own body, and with other people. Awesome. You can do whatever you want in life. Whatever you want. And that's awesome. Okay. Hopefully you guys feel a little more connected. I will see you guys in a couple weeks, and we're going to do the invite power hour next. Okay? Okay. I'll see you guys in a couple Saturdays.